Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar series, and thank you for tuning in this afternoon. My name is Dr. Casey Seenoth, and I'll be moderating today. Our topic for the webinar is intermittent fasting for weight loss, energy, and anti-aging. This presentation is given by our very own Dr. Jason Porter. Dr. Porter received his doctorate in naturopathic medicine at the Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine in Arizona. He graduated in 2003, and together with Dr. Jennifer Nevels, opened up East Valley Naturopathic Doctors in 2006. Dr. Porter is also a board-certified neurotherapist, where he has started a neurofeedback clinic within our practice. Dr. Porter is truly passionate about helping his patients, and that passion drives him to discover the underlying cause and find brilliant and innovative solutions. One thing to mention before we get going, if you have any questions at all, please enter them into the chat box on the right side of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer them at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, Dr. Porter, the stage is yours.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Seenoth. I appreciate it. We have a number of people that are here online with us, and so we welcome you. This is a new topic for us, something that's come up of interest of late. I started fasting approximately about a year ago, although I've fasted in the past for different reasons, but for health, again, I was introduced to some different new ideas in both the research and from patients, and as I looked into this, I got really excited about it. So I hope to share some of the knowledge that we've gained, and hopefully motivate you in different ways to feel like fasting is something you want to put into your own lifestyle. I'm going to go through slides. If you have any questions as we go along, please, just type them into the chat on the right side of your screen. Do you have one or more of the following diagnoses or symptoms? Fatigue or low motivation. Maybe you feel like you have a slow metabolism. Maybe you feel like you're losing muscle mass or density. Do you have elevated insulin or been diagnosed with diabetes or borderline or prediabetes? Are you overweight? I might be more than 10 pounds or more, although it doesn't matter. And then do you have toxicity? And again, toxicity can look like 1,000 things, but one of those that we'll talk about today is post-meal fatigue. You eat and you just feel like you can lay down and take a nap, and you feel like you're aging too fast. Well, these are symptoms and diagnoses that can be helped with intermittent fasting. Let me define what that is for a moment. Intermittent fasting is a purposeful, time-bound, and flexible avoidance of eating with significant potential for improving immediate health and extending health span. So let me say something about these words. Purposeful means we aren't just skipping breakfast. Meaning I'm skipping it for a reason. And so, two, it's time-bound. Intermittent fasting is not, it means that we're following a specific pattern, which we'll talk about some of these patterns, meaning I'm fasting between, say, 8 p.m. at night until 12 a.m. the next morning, or 12 p.m. the next morning. It's flexible, avoidance of eating. So there is some flexibility here, and we'll talk more about that. And it has a great potential for improving our health in the here and now, but also has a potential extending our health span. And health span basically means we want to not just live longer in our lives, we actually want to live well. Sometimes when I was younger, I thought I like to live to be 90, but I only want to live to be 90 if I feel good, meaning do I have my mental capacity? Do I have my physical capacity? Am I able to function and walk or move without pain? And so we call that health span. We want to improve upon that, and intermittent fasting has the ability to do that. Intermittent fasting is not a few things. One, it is not a diet with descriptions of diet do's or don'ts. Well, that's nice. Seems to me, again, we're not going to tell you what to eat, not to eat, although I'm going to give you some very specific and hopefully general guidelines that help. It is not designed to meet a specific diagnosed disease or symptom. Although, as we'll talk about, it does meet some of these issues. But again, anybody and everybody can do it. And it isn't a replacement for native diets which can be influenced by marketing trends or dominant local culture. So if you're used to eating certain foods, again, we're not taking those away. And that's a wonderful thing too. Why would we do or participate in intermittent fasting? Fasting is the fastest way to ketosis, which leads to weight loss, muscle gains, and increased energy. Two, looks like I have a typo there. 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. 2, it restores our natural and most flexible metabolism, reversing insulin resistance and reducing age-related dementia, cancer, cardiovascular, and kidney disease and risk. Number 3, it extends our life and our health span that we mentioned. Meaning we're going to live longer and we're going to live better or more well. And it does this by reducing inflammation resulting from toxins in our food and persistent zombie cells. And so let's go into some of these things. And first of all, we're going to talk about this condition or this idea known as autophagy. Zombie cells are poorly functioning and inflammation promoting cells that persist in the body, though their performance is suboptimal. Autophagy is the process in which these zombie cells are recycled and removed from the body. So they become old or aging cells that just haven't given up their spot in the body. They're like, I like to hang in here. I want to be here a little longer. And the problem is they're creating inflammation, and which is creating both disease, increasing risk of cancer, and increasing risk of autoimmune disease. Now, we can induce this state of autophagy in which we kill or remove zombie cells when we fast greater than 24 hours. The benefit of this recycling is a renewal of all cells and joints with decreased inflammation in the body. Evidence suggests a significant potential for increase in both lifespan and in health span. And we're going to have more people living to be well over 100. With all the research that's gone into anti-aging and fasting and these discoveries with autophagy, again, it's going to help us to live well and live longer, and many of us living. And many people born today are going to be living over 100 years old. That's amazing. Let's talk about this a second. Autophagy, such an important topic, and one of the main reasons we do talk about fasting is that we can look at this timeline here. So, for example, the blue dot. Autophagy starts after we've been fasting somewhere in the range between 18 to 20 hours, meaning we've gone without food. You can still be drinking water, that's fine, or electrolytes. We can have minerals, but we're going without solid food. Autophagy, at 36 hours, autophagy increases 300%. Well, this 36 hours is basically you're fasting for a 24-hour period, and then you're just skipping breakfast and then eating again at lunch, for example. We'll talk more about that shortly. And then at 48 hours, this continues to increase a little bit more, and that's approximately 2 days, of course. And then autophagy peaks at 72 hours. Well, that's a challenge there. That's a few days of fasting. But I want to give you a timeline so you understand why we would be interested in fasting at all and how fasting helps us in an anti-aging process, for example. Let's talk about a few other ideas that were mentioned earlier. Insulin resistance. Insulin is a hormone which is produced and stored in the pancreas. Insulin is only released when we eat carbohydrates and sugars. Insulin, and it will be released a little bit when we eat some protein, a certain amount. Insulin delivers sugar into every cell of the body for use in energy production. When we regularly consume food, insulin levels stay elevated all day long. Again, and what I mean by that is regular consumption of food. It could just be eating 3 meals a day. If we eat 3 meals a day, insulin is constantly up, and rarely does it have an option to reduce or go low. Of course, if we follow some of the older trends or older recommendations of eating food, we would consume sometimes 6 small meals a day. Well, insulin's never going to drop or even come close to normalizing or dropping low. So again, when we regularly consume food, it stays elevated all day long. Eventually, the cells become overwhelmed by the constant presence of insulin. So in a way, this is like cry wolf. They begin to close the doors or ignore the insulin. And so the sugar that's delivered into the cell by insulin. Well, the cells don't get the sugar out of the bloodstream into the cells. And this is known as insulin resistance. Elevated insulin becomes a chronic issue, and levels begin to rise, and sugar levels begin to rise in the blood, and this is called type 2 diabetes. Elevated insulin in the blood leads to many disease processes. Many of you are familiar with these, but it is the leading issue behind heart disease. Heart disease involves or is associated with 30% of all disease-related deaths in the U.S., for example. Insulin is as a leading risk factor for dementia and Alzheimer's disease. It's a leading risk factor also for infertility in men and women. And it's a leading risk factor for breast, prostate, and colorectal cancers. So again, insulin, chronically elevated insulin is a serious issue. Insulin elevated also is associated with kidney disease. It is a leading risk for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is increasing in numbers in the U.S. It prevents also the utilization of fat stores for energy, leading to obesity. And it also leads to damaged cells and fatigue. So elevated insulin, message here is it's a bad thing. If we can have lower insulin over time, the better and the healthier we are. Intermittent fasting is the fastest way to reverse insulin resistance or to reduce insulin in the bloodstream. When we stop eating, insulin is no longer secreted. The longer we go without spiking insulin, the more sensitive the cells will become. The less often insulin is elevated, the more often fat can be released from the cells to be converted to ketones for energy. When ketones are elevated, we are in ketosis, which leads to weight loss. Okay, we're going to talk about then ketones, since I've mentioned those, and ketosis. The result of breaking down stored fat, known as triglycerides, produces ketones. Ketosis is a state in which the body is using fat as a primary source of energy in the absence of sugar or protein being supplied through regular eating. The key to being in ketosis is keeping insulin low, no matter the diet. So there are some diets like the keto diet where you're eating predominantly fat and a marginal or a small amount of protein and very, very low amount of carbohydrates, which keeps the insulin low and still keeps us and maintains us in a state of ketosis. In that state, again, we're going to be using our own body fat. We're going to be using our own body fat for calories. Ketones are absent if we eat on a regular basis. I mentioned this earlier, 3 to 6 meals a day. Insulin will be elevated, and you're not going to be in a state of ketosis unless it's all fat or predominantly fat. Ketones provide ready energy for the brain and body. So ketones have a real advantage here. They do feed the brain and they feed the muscles, meaning when you're in ketosis and you're producing these ketones, you feel fine. You have no hunger pains. You have plenty of energy. And as an example, again, I've been practicing intermittent fasting for a number of months. And at this point, I have not eaten any food today and will eat dinner sometime this evening around between 5 and 7. I'll have completed all my eating before 8 o'clock. I feel fine. I have no irritability, no hunger pains. Again, I have no hangries. I guess that's a combination of being angry and hungry at the same time. I think maybe most of you got that. Ketones significantly dampen the appetite, so we don't feel hungry. And ketones spare muscle. Well, that's interesting. And they indicate optimal fat burning and weight loss. So if you measure your ketones with urine strips for blood testing, when you're in ketosis, you're burning your own body's fat. And again, ketones help. And we don't have muscle loss as a lot of people report or think they might have when they're fasting or skipping too many meals. Optimization of ketosis. Intermittent fasting is the quickest way to ketosis, with ketones starting to rise after 8 hours of fasting. So again, that's basically if you sleep at night, you go to bed at 10, you wake up at 6, you're already producing ketones. And they increase dramatically if fasting is extended up to or beyond 16 hours. So the longer you go without food, the more ketones you're going to produce. Let's talk a second about growth hormone for a moment. Growth hormone is an anti-aging hormone. It's not readily available. You can take this as injections. And even though we would love to do it, the U.S. government has banned this, meaning it's difficult to prescribe. And even if it were able to prescribe it, it's extremely expensive. And so this is not a therapy that's available to everyone. But it can help reverse aging, helps maintain muscle mass, and it helps to burn or promote fat burning. So it's an amazing hormone. But here's some interesting things. Growth hormone increases at 12 hours of fasting. At 12 hours of fasting, right? So meaning I sleep 10 p.m. to 8 or 6 a.m. and I just go a few hours longer. I skip breakfast, for example, and don't eat till lunch. My growth hormone is increased and continues to be secreted during the fasted state, no matter how long it is. That's amazing. Growth hormone helps to maintain muscle mass and promotes muscle growth, and it's free when you do it this way, right? Don't have to take anything. Now, I kind of, fasting, again, it's not something that's new to me, but again, I was introduced to it by a company called Fastwell. I want to talk about some of the education they have and some of the products that they have. And there's 3 different programs that we'll look at that individuals can participate in their fasting programs. And they're listed there as number 1, 2, and 3. Again, number 1 is a novice faster, which is anytime you fast less than 24 hours. And there's a lot of, as we've already mentioned here and discovered, there's a lot of great benefits, even by skipping 1 meal a day and doing an intermittent fasting of 16-8, which means I'm fasting from 8 p.m., for example, till 12 noon the next day. And so I'm eating in an 8-hour window. And we'll talk about that more in a moment. Pro fasting is fasting 24 to 36 hours. This is going more than 1 day and up to a day and a half. And then we have a category known as a master faster. Maybe some of you participated in this where you fasted more than 2 days or more. And I've had the privilege of fasting up to 2 or beyond, 2.5 days. And again, I tell you, when you come to eating that next meal, it tastes phenomenal. But again, that's how I worked on overcoming the fatigue I had felt from a 1.5-year battle with Hashimoto's thyroid disease. And so again, fasting for me has been a way that I've actually been able to recover my health and feel and regain my energy. And so again, there's those longer day fasts that I used to really help me. But I didn't do it immediately. I went and worked through, began to do intermittent fasting in different ways and extending my fasting period or periods of time. Now let's talk about this here. Novice faster. Our first goal is to become a novice faster. And again, part of this is to help individuals overcome some of the fear that may come with this. So just hang in there with me if some of this seems to be overwhelming. But our first goal is to intermittent fast between 16 to 23 hours daily, leaving anywhere from a 1 hour to an 8-hour window for feeding, okay? It does not matter which time of the day we do this, but most individuals find it easiest to start by skipping breakfast and then working towards skipping lunch. As an example, intermittent fasting would include no food from 8 p.m. until 12 p.m., or if I'm going longer, till 4 p.m. the following day. And these are respectively called a 16-8 or a 24 fast. So a 24 meaning I'm fasting for 20 hours and I'm eating in a 4-hour window. Another option is finishing dinner. For some of us maybe who are retired and our schedule's a little different. We finish dinner by 4 p.m., leaving time for a late breakfast or an early lunch and dinner, and no food from 4 p.m. till 8 a.m. the next day. We could call that a 16-8. Again, there's a lot of good questions. Please continue to add the questions in here, and I'll try to answer them towards the end if that's all right. Now, intermittent fasting, we begin to challenge ourselves and extend the intermittent fasting window to 20 hours by skipping lunch. So another option is just 1 meal a day. Sometimes that's termed OMAD, to be consumed over a 1-hour window. Slowly increase this fasting window towards novice fasting from 12 to 20 hours over a few weeks. So when I started fasting, I didn't find it too challenging. But listen, historically, I'm an individual that has always believed that we have to eat 3 meals a day, and particularly breakfast being the most important meal of the day. And having a lot of protein there at breakfast really guarantees you're going to have good energy through the day. And so this was kind of a challenge for me mentally initially. And initially, again, going into the fasting, it was even a challenge energy-wise or mood-wise. But as my body got used to this, and so, initially I just skipped breakfast and I'd eat a protein bar or eat something a little bit later in the morning. But at this point, I'd be able to extend my time over many hours and I feel fine and my body has adjusted to it. And I don't feel hangry or any other negative impact of fasting. So again, but as we do it, we just start slow, build upon where you're at. And if you can go 8 hours, great. If you can go 9 or 10, great. As you get better at this, you'll find that you'll be able to add an hour each week or ever so often. And eventually work up to doing 16 hours in a day. And you won't find you have a problem with this at all. So, for example, if you already consistently finish dinner by 7 p.m., then try waiting 12 to 14 hours before eating your next full meal. That would be 7 to 9 a.m. All right, that sounds pretty simple, right? Meaning I don't want to get up and immediately eat a big meal or have a protein shake. We'll talk more about these patterns too in a moment in other ways with exercise. Now, our goal is to add an hour each week to your fasting ranges until reaching the novice intermittent fast of 16/8, and then do that 1 to 2 days weekly. Okay. After mastering 2 days weekly, you can add additional days or intermittent fast every other day, and then work up to 5 to 7 days weekly. Okay. As you persist, your metabolism will become more flexible and fasting will become much easier. You hold this pattern once you reach that 16/8 or longer for at least 6 weeks before adding or moving forward to other fasting options. Again, sometimes we try to do too much and go for a 24-hour fast and people complain of headaches and all sorts of symptoms. But again, just build up slowly. We're not in a race here. We want to really get good at this. And so slowly letting your body improve upon this can be very helpful. Now, a pro faster, our definition here is a full day fasting or 36 hours, no meal until you wake the next day. So an example of timing for a 24-hour fast starts maybe after eating dinner at 6 p.m. and then fasting until 6 p.m. the following day. Again, think about this. You're in ketosis, insulin's low, and you're even in autophagy. You're getting rid of some of these zombie cells, right? And so again, maybe some of you have practiced that just by accident if you had a busy day. A 24-hour fast can be very easily extended in this scenario to a 36-hour fast by starting at 6 p.m. and fasting till 6 p.m. the following day. But instead of breakfast, breaking the fast at dinner time, you simply wait until the next morning at 6 a.m. and now you've completed a 36-hour fast. Okay? Well, breakfast is going to be wonderful, and I recommend you have some bacon and eggs or whatever you like to have at that moment. You've earned it. And your body has really appreciated that, and you've been in autophagy and ketosis, and you've burned some fat at that point. Now, remember, the longer the fast past 16 hours, the longer we are in a state of autophagy. That is reversing aging. It's reducing hidden chronic inflammation. You're decreasing metabolic diseases and cancer rates, and this leads, of course, to greater energy. Again, other options here. Again, once you've mastered fasting, you can't do this fast, of course, every day. That's not prone to life. So options include, for example, maybe doing a 24-hour fast once weekly. Okay. Maybe you do a 5-2, where you complete 2 24-hour fasts on non-consecutive days each week. This is very helpful when you're trying to lose weight or you got a lot of health problems and you're really trying to push your body into reducing inflammation. Or you can follow what we call a 4-3 pattern, which is every alternate day fasting, and or you fast every other day. Again, and then you eat a normal 3 or 6 meals a day in between those fasting days. Okay. Easy to implement and easy to create some patterns here. Fast more frequently until reaching your goals, and fast 24 hours once weekly or monthly to create a regular and healthy pattern. So consider this. Pro fasting could be completed anywhere from 12, if you do it once a month, 12 days out of the year, or if you're doing it every week, 52 days out of the year. Think of that impact, right? If we even had 10% of the population or 20%, even 30% of the population who fasted on a regular basis, what impact would that have? We've been sending a message to our food industries that, again, we like food, but again, we want better quality food too. And we're fasting because it's good for our health and because we want better food. Again, examples include fasting one 24-hour period once monthly for a total of 12 days yearly, or again, as I said, the 52 days out of the year. Now, master faster, listen, again, this is a goal we all should have. And this is extended day fasting for 2 to 5 days per month, or quarterly, or annually, meaning you don't do this on a regular basis. So intermittent fasting in a small window is what we do on a regular basis. But let me think about this for a second. Listen, maybe once a year you do a long extended fast. There's the research on this is phenomenal. And by doing these things, whether it's just mild intermittent fasting or once a year, 2 to 5 days out of the year, you're going to live longer and you're improving your health span. Phenomenal. So extended day fasting would be helpful for those with persisting health challenges such as chronic illnesses, weight gain, or simply maybe just for the challenge of it. I like to do it for the challenge of it for sure. Again, you got to be careful here. Current medications and supplements may not absorb as well in the absence of food, or may have stronger effects than intended. This would be like a blood pressure medication, right? All of a sudden your blood pressure gets low. If you're doing extended fasting, work with somebody who's experienced here, a physician, a fasting mentor, but or your current doctors here at East Valley, but be sure that your health is adequate and you're able to fast, and that we kind of monitoring how you're feeling. Stay well hydrated, and make sure we take plenty of electrolytes as we do this, those extended fasts. But again, this is a goal that we should all have. And again, work through it. It's not we're going to do this next month or next week. And I mean, it takes us a year to work up to this. Again, these are not, as I worked up to it, I found it not to be that challenging. I found it to be very rewarding, and most people find that they feel really good when they do this. But again, you don't do this cold turkey. Let's talk about a second here, some thoughts, questions that come up, and maybe these are questions that have come up already. Exercise and fasting. Well, listen, I'm a big fan of exercise. There's all the research suggests that exercise is good for us. There's never been a study say that exercise was bad for us. It's good for the mood. It's good for the mind. It's good for the body. It's good for the lungs and the heart. Reduces risk of all diseases. But here we're looking at fasting. Keep the metabolism active by exercising regularly, 30 to 60 minutes daily, even while fasting. So again, my experience is I don't eat breakfast and haven't done this for now a number of months, maybe half a year. And now, and so a few number of months ago, I've been doing, say, for me, a number of years, I've been doing triathlons. So I've been doing more cardio. I've been on the bike, I've been running, I've been swimming, and I've kind of left the weights alone for a while. And so even recently, I've gone back to the gym after COVID, after they opened up, and I'm lifting weights. And again, normally I felt like I'd have to eat something before I went, but I'm working out 30 to 60 minutes. And I feel fine. My energy is great. I'm pushing through things, and I don't feel like I'm weak or like I've missed out on something. But exercise, as we do that, it'll eat up this excess blood sugar, particularly if we have diabetes. That's valuable. If you have elevated insulin that you've done based on labs that you've done, this exercise will also reduce the insulin. It speeds us up into ketosis because, again, when I'm exercising, I'm burning up sugar. So whatever sugar I did have, that maybe my liver's kicking out as it does early in the morning to help us until we get to our next meal. But if I burn that up, I'm going to get into ketosis quicker. And it's going to increase growth hormone secretion, promoting muscle growth and higher metabolism. And as I said, it's going to increase the fat burning, just generally speaking. So exercise is great. Again, we need to do more of it. If you can do it while you're fasting, I mean, kudos to you. You get better results. Okay. Let's talk about this. I created this graph to sort of describe some of the impact on some of the blood markers or some of the things that are happening in our body when we're fasting. So you see on the left column, we have insulin, ketosis, growth hormone, fat burning, autophagy. These are some of the main words or keywords we've discussed so far. Then on the top column across, we have fasting in different time ranges. So in the first category here, fasting, meaning going without food, from 4 hours to 12 hours on, the only thing we're going to see happen in this column is we're going to see the insulin drop. Okay. If I happen to eat, breakfast at 6 a.m. and I eat, lunch between 10 and noon, my insulin's never going to drop. But again, it begins to drop after about 4 hours. Now, if I go beyond this, meaning I go into towards 12 to 24 hours, we're going to see that insulin, for example, begins to get low again, or is low. we see that we start to go into ketosis, okay, meaning we're creating ketones. We're actually going to start seeing growth hormone increase, and we're going to see fat burning increase quite a bit. And we're actually starting to head into autophagy at around 18 hours. 18 hours. So now let's go into the next level, pro-faster, between 24 and 36 hours. We're going to see insulin. Again, it's going to be low. We're in ketosis. Good. Growth hormone is going to double. Okay. I mean, it's going to increase significantly, which means we're going to not lose muscle. We're going to be growing muscle, and we're improving our fat burning status. Again, fat burning increases. And again, as we talked about earlier, autophagy, or this burning up of these zombie cells, are going to increase significantly, upwards of 300%. Phenomenal. And then you look at master fasting when you're beyond 3 to 5 days here. Again, insulin again is low. Ketosis, we're in ketosis, of course. Growth hormone continues to be secreted constantly in a fasting state. Fat burning is optimized, as it is from the beginning. And we continue to be in autophagy, and it increases just a little bit beyond of 300% to 330% or so. So again, you can see here, the longer we go, the more benefits we get in reducing insulin, staying in ketosis, increasing growth hormone, optimizing fat burning, and staying in autophagy. Okay. Now let's just talk a second here about some fasting fears. And so these are things that we hear people say. I get too hungry if I don't eat every 3 to 4 hours. Well, I get that. I used to be one of these people, and so again, I was taught. And again, I apologize to anybody who I've told that to, that you should eat breakfast. And that's the most important meal of the day, and you have 25 grams of protein. Listen, there's nothing wrong with that at this point. It still is a good idea. But the reality is, if I want to be in ketosis and reduce insulin and get the benefits of fasting, it's something we need to work through. But listen, as I did this fasting and converted my body to be more efficient and get into ketosis easily, I don't feel hungry. I don't feel that. And so I get irritable and cranky if I don't eat. That's true. I used to feel that. And my wife and I would say to each other, if one of us was cranky or irritable, I go, when did you eat last? Well, if it's been more than 4 hours, our rule is, so let's stop talking. Let's eat first, and it'll get better. Conversation always improves once we've had some food. But again, as I work through this and I become more flexible, we'll see our body becomes more efficient. I get a headache if I skip meals. Again, there's some different ideas here that we'll present here in a moment. But again, a lot of that can be associated with not drinking enough water and or not having enough electrolytes. My blood sugar drops too low. Well, again, if we actually were measuring blood glucose levels, some of us may dip into what we call hypoglycemia. And at that point, you would be cranky and irritable and might have a headache. But to be honest, it's really rare. Our body actually maintains blood sugar levels in a very specific range. And the minute it senses that we don't have any sugar coming in and insulin's low, the body will crank out ketones that help to maintain a regular blood sugar. So that technically, in a trained faster, that actually isn't a real metabolic issue. But again, we're going to have some exceptions in this regard. Some people are a little more sensitive to this. I am going to lose all the muscle I've worked so hard to get. Well, maybe you have worked hard for it, but, muscle comes and goes. The issue is the research doesn't support that. Again, my experiences personally, as I've gone into fasting, I don't feel like I lost any muscle. And the fact is, I'm fasting doing a 24, meaning I only eat in a small window of about 3 hours every day. I've been working out at the gym, and I can report that I have gained muscle and I've gained strength as I've gone on. I have not seen myself lose anything. So again, research doesn't support it. And again, as we talked about earlier, growth hormone increases, and again, which promotes muscle growth, the best producer of muscle. Of course, if you're a middle-aged male and or a postmenopausal woman, sometimes muscle growth or a loss of muscle can be associated with maybe low testosterone. Work with your doctor to test and evaluate and to treat if need be. My family will think I'm a little crazy or obsessed or fanatical or something, right, of that nature. And that's true. Sometimes when you're doing things that seem out of the box, a lot of people don't understand. I've heard people say, oh, fasting's dangerous. there's no research to support that fasting is dangerous. Now, starving is dangerous. Not having food is dangerous, but fasting, intentional, again, time-bound, purposeful absence or avoiding of food is very safe. In fact, there's again at this point, though someone may try to challenge me, but again, there's hardly a drug or an herb or a nutrient or any other therapy you could do that would provide more health benefits and anti-aging benefits than fasting at this point. So again, no evidence to suggest that it is dangerous. Now I'm gonna talk about a second some fasting tools. So again, we've connected and working with Fastwell, a company that provides both education in this regard, and this includes a few products that again have been utilized and have shown up both in the research, but they're designed to help you to do your best. One of these is Electrolyte. So reduce cravings, or we can reduce cravings and improve energy at the beginning of each day by supplementing with premium electrolytes. This can help avoid headaches, cravings, and low energy. Okay. Now, in this case, this product contains calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. Okay. And so again, I've used this before, both of course in the morning. I use it before I go work out. I use it before I get into the sauna. I use it again in the middle of the day if I'm feeling like, listen, it's 2:00 and I'm feeling kind of hungry, because I'm probably not working or distracted. And I don't want to eat yet. And I don't, it's too early to, I don't want to eat dinner. And I'll take some electrolytes, and it's helped me just to keep going and feel good. That's one tool. Again, another tool that we've used is, and this one I've used before too, and used on a regular basis, is a Boost pre-workout drink. Okay, that can be used for the mid to morning exercise programs. The reason I say mid-morning to early or mid-morning is it has some different ingredients. Some of that could keep us awake. So for example, it does have some branched chain amino acids that help build muscle, not a lot. Again, too much protein can raise insulin. So we don't want to overload the system with protein, but just enough there to support muscle building. Has some creatine monohydrate, which gives us an extra push when we're working out. And then it has some natural sources of caffeine, herbal based. And which again, if you take this too late in the evening, it might keep you awake and make it difficult to sleep. So again, I wouldn't recommend taking it at 8 p.m. at night, although some people find themselves relaxed with caffeine. And then this has less than 1 gram of carbohydrate. So it's not going to raise insulin, which means it's going to keep us in ketosis. We're going to get that extra energy, and I find that helpful, particularly if you're a morning exerciser and or mid-morning. Again, everyone's a little different when they can take caffeine, but there's probably a point in time where you probably shouldn't take things that have caffeine in them without disturbing sleep. Now, another product they carry is called the Curb Wellness Shake. Strategically, you can use this to keep you in a low insulin state and promote the fat burning through ketosis. And it will reduce the hunger, pains, and cravings. So this has some different ingredients in it. One, when you calculate this out, it has predominantly fat, 64% of calories approximately from fat. You get some protein in there. Again, as I said, if protein's not too high, again, we're not going to raise insulin. The fat does not raise insulin. Protein, if it's moderate, will not raise insulin. This does have some carbs in there, but no sugar, less than 1 gram, meaning very low in sugar. But we look at the carbs here, they're mostly from fiber. So the net carbs is about 4 grams. Again, that's extremely low, which means it's going to keep us, it's not going to elevate insulin. And if it does, again, extremely a low amount, which means we're going to stay in ketosis, which means we're still in a fat burning zone. And so again, when do you use this? And I'll show you a graph or a handout here, but you can use this shake maybe after 12 hours of fasting as a replacement for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So it can be used throughout the day, depending on what you need support with. Again, what we're trying to do is get our body used to staying in ketosis. And again, and this is something that can help you to keep the insulin low, stay in ketosis, and develop the habit or the routine of fasting. Okay. In the right side here of our chat box, I'm going to pull up something here in a moment called the handouts, and I'm going to pull up one called the fasting plan card, which you can download and print off. Okay, I hope everybody can see this, but this gives you an idea of how you might use these products. For example, if I'm doing a 16-8 fast, you can use the electrolytes, for example, at 8 a.m. Okay, I'm usually up around 6 and going to work out then, so I use them then at 6 a.m., but you can use that. I don't need necessarily any other products at the moment to get me through the first part of my day. Go to the next section. If I'm doing a 24 fast, which means I'm skipping breakfast, I can do the electrolytes then. I'm even skipping lunch, and I'm not eating till 4 p.m. That's my feeding time from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then I'm fasting from 8 p.m. until the next day at noon. Well, I can use maybe the curb shake there at lunch at noon to get me through the day. I'm going to scroll up here a little bit, and then let's see here. And then we talk about a full day fast, where if I'm going 24 hours, you might be able to use that fasting where you have no meals. You might be able to use that fasting shake once or even up to twice a day. And then we can use the boost in the workout period of time. I hope everybody's able to see that, and hopefully that's helpful. Again, that's on the right side in the handouts, and you can download that and print that off for yourself. While we're at it, a lot of the tools and a lot of things that we're doing here too today, we've also included in a handout. That's also in the handout section. It's called the Intermittent Fasting for Weight Loss. Again, this focus on this webinar is about energy, weight loss, and anti-aging. And again, this gives some specific guidelines specifically there for that. It'll have a summary of a lot of what we've said today. Okay. Now, I've talked about the fasting plan card. I mentioned that. Now, let's talk about a few other topics here too that I like to participate in, and things that I did along with my fasting. Number one, let's clean up the microbiome. This consists of good, bad, and overabundant bacteria, yeast, and candida, and even parasites. These bugs are often the source of cravings generally. So a rule for me, I get a sudden craving. I feel like I got to have a Krispy Kreme donut. Well, I don't need a Krispy Kreme donut. I feel good. My energy's good. Who is that? Well, food cravings are often coming from the bugs that are in us, right? It's not us. And I sometimes will say these bugs are aliens, right? They're trying to latch into our brain, and they're trying to control what we do and what we eat. Food cravings decrease significantly when we target cleansing of the intestinal tract. So fasting also starves these bugs, leading to side effects from die-off or Herxing reactions. A lot of people report they feel really bad when they fast. But that may not be from the fasting itself. It could be just your detoxing. But a lot of individuals will find the fasting easier after we work through some cleanses. Again, if you've been patients of ours, maybe we've given you fluconazole or nystatin. There's a lot of herbs that we use, phytostan, for example, or even garlic, oregano, olive leaf extract. So again, these are things that are familiar to you that we've used before. If you have concerns or questions about, please follow up with one of our doctors who can maybe help you institute a protocol or program that's right for you based on either symptoms or just based on the fact that you do have some cravings or maybe have bloating. So there's always some symptom or some symptoms associated with these. Other ideas, use binders to support the intestinal tract and the liver detox pathways. The intestinal tract, as previously described, contains a variety of microbes, many of which of these produce toxins and inflammatory cytokines. These are chemicals that create inflammation. Fasting can slow the motility for some people in the intestinal tract, and that leads to toxic effects associated with constipation. It might be best. Everyone's going to be different here. And I say, if you have any questions, you can work with your doctor, or if you have some experience, and you may know what's best for you. But it might be best to bind toxins with binders, which can also support regular bowel movements. Okay, so binders that are easily obtained over the counter include charcoal, bentonite clay, chlorella, zeolite. Detox binders are taken once daily, at minimum 2 hours from the last meal. Now, again, we take binders away from food and supplements and other things because they will bind those things. And I don't want to bind your food, particularly if you're only eating 1 meal a day. So, but the binders do well at binding toxins that are being secreted by the liver. Drink plenty of water as you go through this. Now, one of our favorites here that we also offer in our office now, because we want patients to try it. One of our issues historically is people feel better when they do sauna therapy, but people say, I don't have one and I don't know who owns one. So we said, listen, we want people to try it. So we add it to our office, and you can try a series of this infrared sauna. And it amplifies all the benefits of fasting as far as weight loss is concerned, detox is concerned, and energy. And most people report that their energy improves when they do sauna. If you feel good enough, then you can do what I did. I bought one and I have it at my house, and I do this a few times a week. Again, research supports this for detoxing and anti-aging. All right, let's talk a second about what to eat when you're not fasting. Okay, consider following a low sugar and a low carbohydrate or ketogenic diet. Now, remember, as I said in the beginning, fasting has its health benefits. It doesn't, in some degree, it may not matter what you eat when you're not fasting, okay? Which is, I guess, in some ways kind of nice. But if you're really trying to reach some goals and you feel better, these are rules that we might integrate at the same time. With avoidance of grains at least 2 consecutive meals, the use of the Curb Wellness Shake, it can be easy to keep total carbohydrates at a very minimum. Consuming either no grains or allowing less than 50 grams total daily between all feedings allows greater flexibility with at least one meal, such as dinner. Well, listen, if I don't eat breakfast, or if I don't eat lunch, or if I don't eat breakfast and I eat lunch and I keep my grains low or carbs low, when I get to dinner, I'm not worried about eating pasta, even if I have diabetes. My total carbohydrate intake is so low, and I've been in ketosis for a majority of the day, and my insulin has been low. Again, the health benefits, I'm achieving some great things here. So have a little bit of carbohydrate. Again, we're not afraid of it. And again, I'm not afraid of it when it comes to dinner. The reduction in consumption of grains throughout the day will greatly assist in lowering insulin, increasing ketosis, assist in weight loss, increase energy, reduce post-meal fatigue. Again, when you look at this post-meal fatigue, people say, I ate lunch and I feel like I could take a nap. That's because we didn't have enough protein at breakfast. That's our old rule. Or we're eating too many carbs and we got too many bugs in the gut. Okay. Now, as you get trained in this realm, you're going to have energy all day long. We're going to see some other benefits, of course, with cholesterol and triglyceride levels, which all this is going to reduce our risk for cardiovascular or heart disease. To enhance response, try to eliminate or at least significantly reduce consumption of food and drinks with added sugars. Okay. Again, we don't want to be doing monster drinks in the morning to get us through the day when it's got so much sugar in it, right? That hopefully should be obvious. As a substitute, consume natural sugars from fruits. As a dessert with added cream. Cream is going to keep us in ketosis, so that's wonderful. Again, there's a lot of great ideas within the keto world. You don't have to be on the keto diet to take advantage of a lot of the keto education or the keto recipes. Some of my favorite chocolate cake is a keto chocolate cake that's gluten-free and sugar-free. Imagine that, right? Phenomenal. Again, using that at the end of the day as a dessert, phenomenal, or a great option. Now, some of you may have heard of Bulletproof Coffee. I don't drink coffee myself, but you can consume maybe, and on occasion, I'll consume a cup of green tea and add either coconut oil or MCT oil to that. That promotes ketosis and improves energy. Again, doesn't elevate insulin, keeps us in ketosis, helps with weight loss. Interestingly, also, coconut oil and MCT oil with their small chain fatty acids kill yeast candida in the gut. Let's see here. What else not to eat? To enhance ketosis and improve weight loss, try to increase consumption and eat plenty of natural fats from avocados, olives, butter, flaxseed oil, ghee, coconut oil, MCT oil. Yeah, one of the things, butter's fine. Even if you have allergies to dairy. Again, the allergies to dairy are to the proteins. Butter has none of the proteins in it, or less than 1%. So it's all fat, and nothing wrong with that. Consume whole, organic, non-processed foods as often as possible. That makes sense to all of us today. Search for recipes from the many diets which support clean food and the addition of healthy fat, like the Mediterranean diet, keto, and the MIND diet that was studied at Loma Linda University and shown to be really effective in a preventative diet for Alzheimer's disease. Okay. So much research on Alzheimer's. I want you to know, well, just for a moment here, and we'll be doing a webinar in the future on Alzheimer's, but Alzheimer's is reversible and it's curable and preventable today with the knowledge we have. So again, we're going to change this in the future, and we are changing it now, but that's coming. In the absence of eating one or more meals during the day, it is vitally important to ingest a high amount of animal or at least vegetable protein at dinner. Too little protein intake over a few weeks or months can lead to a loss of muscle with reduced metabolism and an increase in fat stores. Well, listen, I think we're still lacking a lot of research in this regard. As my personal self, I only eat protein at dinner. I've done that for a number of months. I'm working out. I don't see any muscle loss, and I see muscle gains and feel as strong or stronger than I was before I started lifting weights. But Again, this is an ongoing topic of discussion. We don't know how much protein individuals need. This can be a really complex topic of protein intake, but try to eat protein at that meal or those 2 meals if you're doing consistent, persisting intermittent fasting, particularly if you're looking at trying to do weight loss or you're persisting in this for a number of months. For daily intermittent fasting, keep protein intake at least greater than 35 grams at dinner, okay? Work with your physician if you feel concerned about this to try to add in other protein sources. Again, the Fastwell shake has some protein in there too, and if you're doing that once or twice a day, you're getting some protein in there. Again, I don't know that we need as much as sometimes the muscle and fitness magazines promote. We still need more information and research, and this may be very individual too, okay? Maximize your results. Let me a couple of topics as we get to the close of our presentation today. One is seek the advice and support of your physician who is a trained fasting mentor every 4 to 6 weeks. Sometimes it may be helpful to get some baselines on your labs. I've listed some labs here that I find important that could be off before you start fasting, and that will improve as a consequence of fasting. And I've listed those here. Again, other things that we've done historically for improving energy, improving weight loss is food allergy testing, for example. If you've never done these tests, and of late, we've looked at even food additives. Again, a lot of people report, and part of the reason I got into fasting personally is as I started noticing I didn't feel good often when I ate. And even if I ate foods that were supposed to be alternative, healthy foods, I often felt tired or I had brain fog. I often report, and a lot of patients report, and I feel the same. I often feel better when I don't eat. And so part of my experiment personally was to see if I and other patients, and some of you who may be listening, maybe you've done these experiments before, but if you feel better when you don't eat, it's because our food is hurting us. And that's because of the additives. That's because it's feeding the bugs, yeast and candida or other bacteria. Our food seems to be poisoning us, and there seems to be benefit when we implement these ideas into a daily lifestyle or routine. But these other testing and labs can give us information about kind of how our body's responding to these things. If you're serious about anti-aging, and we'll have more discussions and presentations on this in the future too, talk to your alternative physician, right? Which means your doctors here at East Valley. And if you're watching this in another state or country, you can seek out a functional medicine doctor. But there are many therapies for slowing and even reversing the aging process that are accessible and include infrared sauna, I mentioned earlier, hyperbaric oxygen therapy that we offer here in the office. We have supplements like curcumin, green tea extract, quercetin, senolytics, NAD, which is offered in supplements and IVs, nicotinamide, riboside, and plasmalogens. These are coming up in the research for Alzheimer's. Again, I don't have time to talk about all these individual things, but there are prescription options that might include some medications in the future, such as metformin, rapamycin, and dasatinib. And these things are coming out in the research, and maybe some of you are familiar with these. A lot of this research is new, but it's progressing, and it provides great hope for increasing individual health span. Again, for us, fasting and intermittent fasting is a foundation. All these other things I've just mentioned, these are supports. They add to it. They're synergistic with it. And again, I think anybody doing supplements and medications for anti-aging without fasting, well, you're just kind of missing the whole boat here. Fasting becomes a foundation for adding all these other therapies that will add added benefit across the board. Okay. Let me just, in closing, where do I start? Well, number one, start fasting as a novice faster. Try to go 12 hours, 13, 14, 15, 16, adding up, and then go pro. That sounds cool, right? And, where we're going to go more than 1.5 days of fasting and longer, eventually master. Take advantage of supporting products from Fastwell. Individual products are available, and then we have discounted bundles available through our office, and Fastwell has those discounted bundles even on their website. At fastwell.com. The Curb Shake has flavors of chocolate also and vanilla. Again, add supportive detox supplements here for the bugs, the binders, and consider scheduling infrared sauna, particularly if your goal is for weight loss or, again, as I said, for aging. If labs have not been complete in the last 6 months, maybe schedule an individual baseline to know where you're starting and where you'd like to end. Of course, if we find some labs that are off, we'll retest those in a period of time and see how you've responded to this challenge of fasting. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. We went fast. We did a lot. Fast, happy. At this point, I think we want to have some, try to answer as many questions as we can. Casey?
Yeah, we've got a lot of engagement in the chat, so thank you so much for putting your questions in there. We'll try to get to most of them as we work through, but there were a couple questions concerning sharing the video or being able to access the presentation. Dr. Porter, I believe we will have access for folks who maybe missed part of it or want to get to it another time.
Correct.
Through our website.
It takes a couple of days to process the video. We hope to have within a few days, within the week, send out an email with the video that we recorded today. And then again, if I don't have any at this point, I have no problem with wanting to share. If you reach out to our office manager, Misty, and I'll give her access to the slide presentation that I've given today, and you can have access to it.
All right, wonderful. So for those of you, hopefully that addresses that question. Okay, we do have couple questions about fasting and thyroid or hypothyroidism or just thyroid in general.
Yeah.
What are our thoughts here on how those two conditions or this condition affects fasting?
That's a good question. I guess the question could from two angles. One, do we believe if fasting or going without food, would it suppress our thyroid? I don't believe that's the case. And I haven't personally seen any research that would indicate that. Number two, as I mentioned earlier, I developed Hashimoto's, an autoimmune disease, over 2.5 years ago, and was fatigued for 1.5 years. And again, I tried everything I could naturally to try to get that thing to reset. And I'm on thyroid hormone today, but even being on medication, again, I still didn't feel good. I started intermittent fasting. And as I got into doing 2 days of fasting, that's when I started feeling better. Fascinating. I'd already been doing sauna for a number of months beforehand. I think that was helping. But as I got into the fasting, that kind of turned my thyroid back on, I believe. Reduced a lot of inflammation. And that's when everything kind of reset for me. And that's when I knew I was a believer, if you might say that.
Great. Thank you for that response. Another question geared towards younger folks. Is there an age limit for fasting, like a lower range for adults who's, maybe we're worried about brain development? So what do you think about that?
Okay, I'm going to delineate an age for me at the moment, and this question's come up before, but I believe that anybody over 18 can fast safely. Okay, and I hope that's correct. I'm going to say another age group. I believe that everybody over the age of 40 needs to fast. There's nobody over the age of 40 that needs 3 meals a day. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, the problem is under 18, I don't want to create an eating disorder in somebody who's a growing teenager, a girl or a boy. And so I'm really careful about this. And again, the other day I had a 17-year-old, I thought about it and we talked about it. But again, I need somebody who's really of a mature state who I know I'm not going to induce that. Now, we know that there's special diets like the Keto Diet that may help in seizures, right? Or high-fat diets that may help in seizures in children. That's a different ballgame, right? And we may be in ketosis, or we may be promoting ketosis, but that's looking at a disease state. So there may be exceptions. But as far as promoting it for weight loss, but I have got to the point too as a parent. I'm not forcing my children to eat breakfast. It's one of those parents who said, everybody's got to have protein at breakfast. I'm not letting you go to school without protein. If they tell me, I'm not hungry, Dad, I go, fine, go ahead. If you're not hungry, eventually you will be hungry, I know. And so they will eat. But again, it has created some different conversations, and we've talked about that. And again, I don't feel like I have to force my children to eat. But again, we need to be careful that we don't produce and create eating disorders directly or indirectly.
Okay.
Hope that helps.
Great response there. Lots of questions in the chat about coffee. I know, Dr. Porter, you said you don't consume coffee, but there are a lot of questions about, how does coffee integrate into the fasting? Bulletproof coffee, the versions of coffee with MCT oil or butter. How does coffee consumption affect fasting? Does it break the fast?
No. Simplest answer is no. The nice thing is, again, as long as you don't add sugar to it, Yeah, I'd have to have a pound of sugar to coffee to think it tasted good to me. But as if you don't add sugar to it, the cream and coffee do not raise the insulin, which means it keeps us in a state of ketosis, which means we're still in a fasting state. And again, I suppose you probably get some energy from that. And, and that, so it's probably helpful if people do that. And so those who don't do coffee, I like to do the green tea, which gives a little bit of caffeine, but you have some other health benefits with the green tea that come with that. And then I add the MCT oil or coconut oil, but you could add the butter to the green tea also. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that coffee, if you drink it black, it's no calories, so it shouldn't affect fasting state. And then, a little bit of cream, a little bit of fat, definitely keeps the insulin down. So also does keep ketosis. As long as you're not pouring loads of cream in there, you should be good to go.
Well,
all right.
Yeah, creamers, as long as they don't have added sugar in there, right? So let's be careful. Yeah.
Good. Many questions come up about the schedule or the timing of the fast. I know you talked in your presentation about the different stages. You could be a novice faster, a pro, a master. So I think a lot of that probably was covered in your presentation, but we have a couple points about, someone here asked about fasting, doing a 48 to 72 hour fast, and then finding out that energy is kind of flagging when they get back to working out on day one.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I know we addressed some of those points of energy while exercising and how, we can work towards that.
Well, listen, a 72-hour fast is a lot different than just intermittent fasting day to day, or even a 24-hour fast. Something that we didn't explain earlier is that your body, as you eat, your body actually stores a little bit of sugar in the form of glycogen. It stores it in the muscles and it stores it in the liver. And when you skip meals and you don't eat for 4 hours and beyond, your body will actually start using the sugar in the liver and in the muscles initially to feed your body and keep the blood sugar levels level. Now, you're going to deplete those after 4 to 6 hours. And of course, if you're in a triathlon, anybody who's trained for an endurance race where you exercise more than 2 hours or 3 hours, that you hit a wall. We call it bonking. And when you bonk, it basically means that you just used up your last sugar. And so you really are in a state of ketosis, hopefully, and you're using fat to burn those calories. And but again, when you're fasting 5 days, your body has burned up the glycogen. So yeah, in those first few hours, it may take you a day or two to recover that glycogen. And in the absence of that glycogen, your body may feel weak and tired. So I might not recommend intense exercise coming out of a fast. Sometimes we want to recommend maybe doing like some bone broth or maybe even the fast well shakes, but something mild, but slowly adjust and let your body adjust. And it may take a few days before you have that full energy capacity, right? Because you have sort of robbed yourself or depleted or drained all these excess or backup energy sources that our body makes up for. Okay. I think that's the answer to that one, but I haven't had that experience myself, so I can't speak to it personally.
All right. We've got a question about the electrolytes. I think we covered that in the presentation. The Fastwell program has a really good electrolyte product that does not have added sugars in it, so it's going to keep you in ketosis. So that's in the presentation there.
And I like that. I like the product too because it has the magnesium also in there, which may help in a few ways. So a lot of electrolyte products don't necessarily have all other minerals in them, but again, electrolyte would be very beneficial here. So thank you.
All right. Got a question about during the feeding window when you're allowed to eat. Is it best to eat small snacks and one main meal? Questions about how many calories should we be consuming during a feeding window? Does it even matter?
Yeah. Well, Dr. Seanoff, I want to ask you a question. Does it matter how many calories we eat in that eating window? What's your thought?
I think there's a lot of factors in there. I think your activity level is going to matter, the types of the macro sources of those calories, as far as I think the most important thing is probably keeping that carbohydrate down and then having a calorie intake that matches your activity level.
Yeah. I personally, I haven't tried to count calories at all. And it's interesting. Some days when I'm finishing my fast, I'm eating dinner. Some days I feel actually pretty hungry and I seem to eat like a lot. And then sometimes I eat and I get halfway through a meal. I go, you know what? I'm full. I feel fine. Yeah. And I know that I'm not reaching, I know that I'm not reaching my recommended caloric intake. There's no way. because I'm not eating 2 burgers. I'm not trying to make up for all those meals that I've skipped. And I'm just eating until I feel fine, until I feel full. I'm not trying to overindulge. So I eat a regular meal. And so I imagine it's probably under calories. Now, again, my weight has not changed, although my wife says I look leaner. Now, maybe I've lost body fat, and so that's good. But if you're not eating enough calories and you're eating under the calories, you're going to lose weight or body fat in some degree. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I don't worry about the calories, and I don't worry about that. I just ate a good meal, make sure I get enough protein at that meal, particularly if it's just 1 meal a day.
Yeah, I think there's maybe this concern going into it that if you're fasting for long periods of time, there might be the temptation to kind of gorge yourself when you do go into a feeding window. However, I find that as your metabolism adjusts to this new style of eating, your appetite is going to modulate itself. I think, maybe the first couple of times you go through a cycle, if you're doing a couple of days intermittent fasting, or maybe you do a 2-day fast, you're going to find as you come out of the fast and your body's kind of becoming accustomed to it, you're not going to want to eat a huge plate of food when you get back to food. You're probably going to want to eat healthier foods. I think there's a change. Your body's going to kind of crave more whole foods, more nutrient dense foods, as you kind of become accustomed to what it really means to be hungry. I think there's commonly in our society, people are eating on the standard American diet, conflate the sensation of a food craving for sugar or craving for salt with the actual sensation of being hungry and your body requiring nutrition. They're very different sensations, and when you try fasting, you're gonna feel the difference, and it's really kind of an amazing thing to experience. So
I agree. And something else I noticed, one thing we try to focus on, particularly half of my family's doing intermittent fasting. We only eat 1 meal a day. And we try to say, let's make sure this meal is a high quality meal, clean, and good proteins, good balance of things. We don't go to McDonald's, right? We would feel awful. We know we would. So we try to make it high quality. Number 2, the appreciation of that meal has increased. We find that in the past we've been eating and we're not even appreciating it. It's like we just sat down out of a habit, or it's a routine, or it's family time. But again, when we get there and we eat and we go, man, this tastes much better than it's ever tasted before. That's nice. I feel like there's more joy in the eating in itself too. It's renewed the joy in eating for me personally.
All right. Almost down to the bottom of the chat here with the questions. We do have a question about adrenal fatigue and fasting.
Yeah. Good question. Well, does what fasting help adrenal fatigue, or would it promote it? As far as I can tell, adrenal fatigue is a very common issue, and of course, stress. But when you look at what fasting does, when it produces and promotes growth hormone, well, that's an anti-stress hormone for sure. And so I feel like, and I can't say that I've seen any consequences with fasting causing adrenal fatigue. I feel like fasting helps adrenals. But again, I don't have any research, or I haven't done any labs on this one, and I haven't seen any research on it. But here's the thing, it's very interesting. And we've had a number of patients come back to me as I've talked about intermittent fasting, as they've tried it, as they've done it. And I know a lot of you are doing that. It seems to me that everybody reports that energy's better, right? When they're fasting, right? Say, my energy's better. Okay, cool. That's nice. That's easy. So again, I'd have to assume that the adrenals are healthier, right? Mm-hmm. It isn't taxing them, seems to be supporting them, or reducing stress on the body as a whole.
Yeah, great insight on the adrenals. I think fasting can definitely benefit that aspect of the fatigue. Great. Okay. I think that about wraps it up for our questions. I think we've addressed pretty much everything in there. For those of you who've missed part of the session, or would like to review the presentation, it is going to be available. A couple days we'll take to make sure the recording's all set, and we'll have that available. You can go through our East Valley ND website, or you can contact our office to get access to that. Dr. Porter will make the video and the slides available for those of you who'd like it. Okay. Once again, I'd like to thank you for coming out to our webinar, and thank you for your attention and your participation today. It's really a pleasure having you all. And thank you, Dr. Porter, for the great information.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoyed it. Again, I'm a big fan of fasting. Everybody needs to do it. Let's do it. So, right. Too much to lose out, right? All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for moderating here, Dr. Sinoff.
All right. Everybody have a great day. Bye-bye.
All right. Have a good night. Bye.